We've come to Takemitsu kind of naturally, and so Tung, tell us about this beautiful piece. Your impression of this Takemitsu piece that you're playing tomorrow night.
Yeah, it's very different than any other viola concerto I've ever played. It's not a piece that's the reason he wrote the piece was to show off the viola instrument. It wasn't like that. The piece itself is, the title has something to do with autumn. I think he felt something. Certain things he felt in autumn, in fall, and he had a certain way of describing it. And my impression is he might have thought the viola was the perfect instrument for that. Instead of just writing a piece to show off the violist or to show off certain instrument, this is a piece to show his impression of certain things he felt. That's how I feel. Yeah.
Mm. It's again, it has this wonderful color. He was, when he was writing the string quartet, he said he studied all the quartets of Bartók a lot, and he always loved the music of Debussy. And I was really enjoying watching you bringing these colors out as well, because there is something very special about the harmonic language of Toru Takemitsu. When you're preparing a score like this, do you actually analyze the harmonies a little bit, or do you play it, or can you just hear it? How do you prepare?
We do both, yeah. I do. To me, because actually Toronto, this city, has a certain sort of share the same length of a wave with Takemitsu from my personal point of view. Because when he was getting Glenn Gould Award, and he suggested me as a Protégé Prize at that time, but to me it's very, very special to conducting his piece in Toronto with Toronto Symphony. Actually, the autumn, I don't know, maybe the string quartet, every instrument has a character. As Tom just said, I thought. So, sort of, the viola is really like an autumn instrument. Somehow, it's a deep, but it's not end of the deep. But cello has all the way very touch the button. But viola, for this piece, I heard. I was talking to Ansi. I never heard something so beautiful before from a viola. Mm-hmm. It's really, really touching. But meanwhile, it's so romantic, but not in the way of a romantic, but in the way it's very, very. It's a lot of a sense of East, sense of Japanese, but meanwhile you get a lot of French, delicate sort of sensibilities there for the color of tones, and. Good thing about his phrase is every phrase is not too long, but always like a Chopin. It's always elastic, especially at the beginning and end. When you hear it, it's impossible to imagine this music is with a meterized sort of a notation, because it's always like floating. And when you hear it, actually, Tom gave me a copy of the DVD. When you hear it first without score, you always imagine this is very much like a orchestral piano played by one person.
Mm-hmm. He's also the only composer that I know who writes a bar, instead of being 3/4 or 4/4, 3.5 over 4. So he'll give you 2 beats plus 1.5. Yeah. And I wonder if there was something. I don't know why other composers wouldn't necessarily do that, because it's kind of sometimes 3.5 beats is very different from 7/8 notes, right? In feeling. So
yeah, I think he always trying to search that kind of flexibility. Yeah.
When he died so tragically young, I mean, it was just really in his prime. We were asked to play at a memorial at the UN. And he Richard Stoltzman, the clarinetist, had played a lot of his music, and he stood up and he started to tell us all the story about Takemitsu, which I'll just relate. He had written a piece for Dick a few years earlier, and there was a little information underneath one of the phrases. It said calm and ecstatic. And Dick Stoltzman said, well, Toru, that's really nice, but, in English, there's calm and then there's ecstatic, but not, he was trying to be nice, explaining a little bit the English language to Mr. Takemitsu. Well, Mr. Takemitsu read Finnegan's Wake of James Joyce. In fact, A Way Alone is inspired by Finnegan's Wake. He didn't really need much help with the English language. But the wonderful thing was he looked at Dick and he said, you think calm and ecstatic is not possible at the same time? You have to think a little more. And I think... I always remember that because there's something about those two elements in what you were describing. It's kind of, that's what it is, isn't it? It's
what I liked is this piece is very, very Eastern in the way of organizations of rhythmic and phrasing way. Obviously, you see, the beating is the way of his, have to be the way, unfortunately, to organize the huge ensemble, but not necessarily to be limited by the meters. So that's his orchestration is so fascinating, is because I feel the whole orchestra is a one-man played piano. You know what I mean? When you play Chopin, for the pianist, you can be as free as possible. But of course, string quartet is much more difficult because string quartet need, like you just said, 4 people be one. It's difficult, and the orchestra, hundreds of people be one. That's another one.
Mm-hmm.
So he did a great job actually, and his piece is very easy to rehearse. But when you hear it, it's so free.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're looking forward to that tremendously.